Hey budgeteers, this is part 3 of my personal finance tale. If you haven't seen the other 2, drop down to the description below and click on the playlist and you can start from the beginning. If you saw number 1 but you missed number 2, click on this card right here and you'll be right up to number 2 and then you can come join me here again. We'll continue with the story here. I landed my first job as a financial analyst with Convergys, which was an awesome opportunity because I was an internal hire. They wanted to give me a chance. So I went and I worked down in Salt Lake. Again, they moved me from the college town I was living in back to Salt Lake City, and we moved everything down. We packed up all of our stuff, and we were moving down in 2008, which was a perfect time to be moving because the housing market was just barely coming back, if at all. It might have even still been going down right at that exact moment. And we were debating whether or not to buy a house. We had no money, and we were just in a place of wondering if it was time to buy a home. So a lot of things had changed right between me graduating and moving down to Salt Lake. We had my second child, my daughter, and I also had trained and practiced for a triathlon. I had done that successfully, lost a lot of weight. Things were going really well in our favor, and I guess maybe we were feeling overconfident because my first job as a financial analyst didn't offer very much money at all, and I didn't realize how much it wasn't at the time. I thought it was a great deal compared to some of the other offers that I'd received on the market, and I thought, you know what, let's go ahead and take this. And when we went to a mortgage lender, of course your mortgage lender tells you you can qualify for a house clear up here if you want. And doing my budget and putting everything into my template, my spreadsheet at the time, I turned to my wife and said, look, we can afford something in this range right here. And she knew that we could afford this range based on our lender's information, but I kept trying to push it to this range right here. And so we went out house hunting within my range that I had specified, and we were finding some decent houses, but nothing that my wife just totally fell in love with. So finally I said, okay, we can move it up just a little bit. And of course, a little bit more. And we started to stretch ourselves way too far. So in October of 2008, we finally landed on a house that we thought was the greatest house. It was on a short sale at the time, and it was just awesome to be able to get into it. We loved everything that we were able to do to get into the house and have it be in our control, in our situation. We paid good amount of money according to our budget, and we felt like we were going to be okay. However, within the first 3 months of me working at my job, I realized that we were not going to be able to pay the bills. And I'm sure that that's where all of my financial woes started, was right there when I decided that we were going to buy a house without being able to support it, but hoping and thinking based on my overly confident plans, because I am an optimist. I always see that things are going to work even when they won't. So that's probably a fault of mine to a point. It's good for the most part. But we had this house, and I had this job that just wasn't going to support it. So I started looking around, and I found a new job with Morgan Stanley. I was a stock trader for approximately 9 months with Morgan Stanley. I got into the business, left my old job after just a few months because I needed to make sure that we could take care of ourselves, and this gave me an opportunity to grow and to proceed. I was looking at the old job thinking, well, I'm not going to get promoted. Everybody who's here has been here for 9-10 years. There's not a lot of movement. So it was time to move over and go somewhere where it was a much bigger corporation that could allow me to grow and expand. So I went out and I did my Series 7 and 66 licensing, which meant that I could trade stock and bonds, and also that I could advise on stock and bonds, even though I wasn't going to do that. I was just basically the front line of making trades that were unsolicited. So basically that means that somebody would call me and they would tell me what to trade for them, and I would make the trade on their behalf. I wouldn't advise them and tell them what to buy or what to sell at the time. I would just take what they wanted and get it done. So doing that was a lot of fun. I actually really enjoyed stock trading, and I would have stayed there for a lot longer. However, there was a recruiter, a headhunter, that came and found me and told me that there was a great opportunity that I could come and open up a new call center for this corporation that was coming from Australia. And I was really excited about it. It sounded like a lot of fun. They told me that I'd be going back into a team lead role, and also that I would be bringing some of that collections knowledge back in with me from back when I worked at Discover Card. And I thought it would be a wonderful opportunity, and it paid a lot more, so I thought, why not? I'll give it a try. I left Morgan Stanley at the time to take the opportunity, and it was a good opportunity at first. I thought it was going to be a lot of fun, and I started working there, and I was doing so well. I had my team for my first month, and we were the top of the whole call center yet again. In my first month, these people had come over from Australia with team leads, and I was one of the very few team leads from the United States, and I was able to drive a top winning team, and it was so much fun. But then they asked me if I would take on another role, which I wasn't really qualified for, but they asked me to take it on. I took the role because I thought it would be interesting, and I wanted to help them and help them grow if I possibly could. Taking the role was probably the worst thing I ever did in that job position. Because once I took it on, I realized that I had skills and knowledge that I could automate a lot of the systems in there. So I started to create templates and spreadsheets that would do a lot of my work for me. And my boss started to kind of get wind of the fact that my job was almost automating itself. There were small parts where human interaction was needed, but I had done a really good job of turning this whole business into a template that could run itself based on macros and other types of things that were going on. So that was awesome. I did really good, and they realized that. I think that they needed to cut back and save some money, and they realized that they were paying me a little bit more than, well, probably a lot of bit more than someone that they could hire right in from the floor just to touch those human interaction points and now use all of my automation for their benefit. I'm speculating here. Maybe there were other reasons why they kind of targeted me or singled me out, but I do have to say I was fired from the job. They let me go. They terminated my position, and there were a few key indicators that really frustrated me at the time. And I don't really talk about them a lot, but I am going to share them here. I feel like it's time that I kind of let them off and tell my side of things. And again, I haven't mentioned any names. There's some details. If you really wanted to trace it back, I'm sure you could find out who they are. But it was right before bonuses were to be paid out, and they just let me go and a few other people as well. So it wasn't like I specifically was targeted in that scenario, but then I know that the person they hired to replace me was getting paid a lot less, and it made me start to think that there was some financial situation there that they needed to figure out their business, and I wasn't a part of that because I had now automated this new process that I had created for them. So it was really frustrating. I was really discouraged. The nice thing was, I was already getting bored because I had automated the whole thing. I wanted to go back to just being a team lead, but basically I couldn't. They were all full. They had now backfilled all the positions, and so here I was stuck as this compliance manager is what I was. And I was just doing that role for as long as I could, and I really didn't enjoy it. I was going through the motions, and I did it really well, almost too well, it sounds like. So then I was already putting out applications. I was looking for another job, just kind of putting my feelers out. I wasn't super serious. The best news was that as soon as I got fired, it was, I think, 2 days later. So I was at home, and I told my wife, I was like, I'm going to redo our entire landscape. I'm going to make our yard perfect during this time that I'm out and try to keep my mind off of what's going on. And 2 days later, I kid you not, I had a phone call for a new financial analyst position going back into that realm of the world that I had applied for. I had an opportunity with Overstock.com, and I was super excited for the opportunity to go and work for them. They had some great offerings and some great people that I met as I was interviewing and applying. So I was really excited to get a call back from them and to go in for an official interview. And then 2 days after I was let go, I was able to land another job. I was completely honest with them, told them the whole scenario of what had happened at my previous employer, the confusion that was going on there while they were trying to hire me, and I was getting fired at the same time was crazy, insane. But luckily I had a great manager on the Overstock.com side that was able to get me in and help me out, and I really respect that company. It was a wonderful transition, and that's where I'm going to end you this time, but we will continue next time.
Thank you for watching. I'm extremely glad to have you here. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them down below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up. For more awesome videos, make sure you are subscribed.